Economic collapse has arrived in Germany of the European Union. Will the US be close behind? Michael Schneider says, but I also believe that you were put at this specific moment in history for a reason. Things are starting to get really crazy in Germany. The Germans are dealing with the worst inflation crisis that they've seen since the days of the Weimar Republic. And meanwhile, economic activity is starting to shut down all over the nation. Of course, other European countries are facing similar problems, but Germany was supposed to be the economic rock that the rest of Europe could always depend on. Unfortunately, the decision by the Russians to cut the flow of gas through the Nord Stream 1 pipeline is hitting Germany extremely hard. If we could just get both sides to agree to end the conflict in Ukraine, it would greatly help matters, but that simply is not going to happen. In fact, it appears that Putin has decided to escalate things, and Western powers will inevitably greatly escalate matters in response. What this means is that the economic turmoil that we're witnessing in Europe is not going anywhere anytime soon. This week we got some inflation numbers out of Germany that are so high that it's difficult to believe that they are actually real. German producer prices rose in August at the fastest rate since records began in 1949. Data released by the Federal Statistical Office showed today, pointing to a further increase in consumer prices. Producer prices of industrial products rose by 45.8% compared to the same month of last year, and compared to July 2002, prices rose 7.9%. Soaring energy prices on the back of Russia's conflict with Ukraine remain the main driver behind rising prices. There's an energy crisis. And if we continue to see monthly increases around 8%, next year at this time we could be talking about a yearly jump of close to 100%. Now, how bad do things have to get before we actually start using the term hyperinflation? Energy prices are the biggest reason why inflation has gotten completely out of control, and the German government has been forced to nationalize a huge natural gas company in order to keep it from going under. The German government is closing in on an agreement to nationalize gas giant Uniper SE as Berlin moves to stave off a collapse of the country's energy sector. A provisional agreement between the government, Uniper, and its main shareholder, Finland's Fortum Oig, has been reached, according to people familiar with the situation. While contracts have not been signed, Berlin is aiming for an announcement later this week. According to the CEO of Uniper, the company has been losing about 100 million euros every day during this crisis. 100 million daily. Needless to say, the government of Germany cannot save everyone, so a lot of firms won't survive this crisis at all. For example, a manufacturer that has been making toilet paper for Germans for nearly 100 years is now headed into insolvency. Hackle has been a German household name since 1928, but the Dusseldorf-based toilet paper manufacturer said all it took was this summer's gas price shock to drive it into bankruptcy, insolvency. Sadly, this is just the beginning. According to the German central bank, the nation is moving into a broad-based and prolonged decline in economic output, they said. Quote, economic activity may pull back somewhat this quarter and shrink markedly in the autumn and winter months, end quote, the central bank said, adding that it did not forecast this adverse scenario in the June report. Bundesbank continued, quote, there are mounting signs of a recession in the German economy in the sense of a clear, broad-based and prolonged decline in economic output, end quote. It said a contraction is expected in the third quarter with deeper declines in economic activity in the fourth quarter. Quote, high inflation and uncertainty with regard to energy supply and its costs affect not only the gas and electricity intensive industry, but its export business and investments, but also private consumption and the service providers dependent on it, end quote, the central bank said. And you can refer to such a scenario as a recession or a depression if it makes you feel better. I call it an economic collapse. The U.S. economy will soon be experiencing immense turmoil as well. According to billionaire Barry Sternlicht, the Fed's exceedingly foolish policies are pushing us towards a serious recession. In an interview with CNBC Squawk Box on Thursday, Barry Sternlicht, the chairman and CEO of Starwood Capital, said he believes Americans are facing a major recession if the Federal Reserve proceeds with several more rate hikes as a means of curbing inflation, which is reportedly the central bank's plan. Quote, the economy is breaking hard, end quote. This is what Sternlicht told the financial news outlet, according to the Daily Caller. He said, if the Fed keeps this up, they're going to have a serious recession and people will lose their jobs. He's right on target. But instead of saying people will lose their jobs, he should have noted that lots of people are already being laid off. This is something that I've been documenting on my website for quite some time. And this week we learned that Gap has decided to lay off hundreds of corporate workers. Gap Inc. is cutting about 500 corporate jobs as the clothing retailer struggles with declining sales. The job cuts, which include open positions, will be primarily at Gap's offices in San Francisco, New York, and Asia, and hit various departments. A representative for the retailer confirmed on Tuesday. The moves were first reported by the Wall Street Journal. Ouch. In this environment, very few workers are truly safe. At this point, even the entertainment industry is letting lots of people go. The struggling TV and film industry continues to run face first into bad news. This week, it was reported that Warner Brothers Discovery was firing 100 TV ad salespeople at the same time that Paramount has considered ending offering Showtime as a standalone service, Bloomberg reports. Netflix followed suit with their own layoffs, the report says. The company has reportedly let go hundreds of employees and abandoned some of its office space. At the same time, the firm's stock price has collapsed and fallen more than 60% from its all-time highs. Back in 2008 and 2009, millions of Americans lost their jobs. Will we see something similar in the months ahead? And just like during the Great Recession, the housing market is really starting to slow down. In fact, we just learned that home builder confidence has now fallen for 9 months in a row. The confidence of builders of single-family houses fell again in September, the 9th month in a row of declines, as a combination of elevated interest rates, persistent building material supply chain disruptions, and high home prices continue to take a toll on affordability, the NAHB report said. With today's index value of 46, the NAHB Wells Fargo Housing Market Index is now below where it has been in May 2006, on the way down into the housing bust. This time around, it won't just be a few areas of the planet that suffer. At this moment, we're literally witnessing economic implosions all over the planet, and the stage is being set for an immensely painful 2023. The one thing that could really turn things around would be peace. Unfortunately, global leaders on both sides seem absolutely determined to drag us into the type of cataclysmic global conflict that I've been warning about for years. So there is not going to be peace, and that means that things are going to get really bad in 2013 and beyond. But I also believe that you were put at this specific moment in history for a reason. It's when times are the darkest that the greatest good can be done, and that is something that we will all need to remember during the very dark times in front of us. Views expressed in the article are the opinions of the author and do not necessarily reflect the views of Collective Spark. It's finally here, Michael's new book, 7-Year Apocalypse, now on paperback and Kindle on Amazon. And about the author, this is by Michael Schneider. Of course, this is my name is Michael Schneider, and my brand new book entitled 7-Year Apocalypse is now available on Amazon. In addition to my new book, I've written 5 others that are available on Amazon. Lost Prophecies of the Future of America, The Beginning of the End, Get Prepared Now, and Living a Life That Really Matters. By purchasing the books, you help to support the work that my wife and I are doing, and by giving it to others, you help to multiply the impact that we're having on people all over the globe. I have published thousands of articles on the Economic Collapse blog, The End of the American Dream, and The Most Important News. And the articles that I published on those sites are republished on dozens of other prominent websites all over the globe. I always freely and happily allow others to republish my articles on their own websites, but I also ask that they include this About the Author section with each article, which is what I'm doing here. He says the material contained in this article is for general information purposes only, and readers should consult licensed professionals before making any legal, business, and financial or health decisions. I encourage you to follow me on social media on Facebook and Twitter, and any way that you can share these articles with others is a great help. During these very challenging times, people will need hope more than ever before, and it's our goal to share the gospel of Jesus Christ with as many people as we possibly can. This is by Michael Schneider, guest writer on Collect the Spark. Please leave your comments. Thank you for your support. Kindly support my Patreon account. The daily posts are 5 videos daily, and they are totally different from what I have on my YouTube channel. Thank you so much for your support and that you find all my content so interesting. You'll find the Patreon account details in the description box below.